It's been about 3 weeks since the last theory video, and here it is, the much requested Pesmerga and Yuber video. This is going to differ a little from previous theory videos. I won't be going into the theories as in-depth as I have in previous videos, as there simply isn't enough information surrounding the characters to do so. Theories surrounding Pesmerga and Yuber are only able to take a few baby steps forward before we run out of lore and start approaching fanfic territory. So instead, I'm going to give a summary of each of the more plausible theories and just offer some quick thoughts on them. I do have my own personal thoughts on Pesmerga and Yuber. Anyone who watched the Suikoden 1 and 2 character ranking videos will be fully aware of what those thoughts are. I'll share my personal thoughts towards the end of the video after discussing the theories. So with that all said, let's go over some quick facts about both characters. Who are Pesmerga and Yuber? Very little is known about Pesmerga. In fact, almost nothing is known about Pesmerga. He's a very powerful but mysterious warrior of unknown origins clad in black armor. According to Richmond's investigations, nobody has ever seen him sleeping or eating, so he does not appear to require sleep or food, although he can eat as evident by the cooking minigame. He moves very quietly despite his heavy armor. He doesn't appear to be human. He's very single-minded, with his only motive being to track down Yuber to settle their business. And Pesmerga's name is of Kurdish origin, Peshmerga, which means those who face death. It's also the name of the Kurdish military forces. Pesmerga may not be his real name, but rather a reference to his profession or organization he might be part of. Or as he is an individual, it may mean one who faces death or one who confronts death. Yuber, on the other hand, we know some more information about. Similar to Pesmerga, Yuber is a very powerful, mysterious warrior clad in black armor. He is able to summon monsters from another world. He holds a great hatred for the True Runes and their bearers, yet he himself bears one of the 27 True Runes, the Eightfold Rune, or the 8th-section rune if you prefer. He does not appear to be human, as several characters imply that they can sense that Yuber is not human based on his powerful aura. He has appeared in many wars throughout history and is a known acquaintance of Windy and Necklord. Yuber has heterochromia iridum, where his eyes are two different colours. One of his eyes is grey, while his other eye is red. His grey eye has a round pupil, while his red eye has a slit pupil, like that of a feline. He desires to create chaos through death and destruction and enjoys the suffering of others. And he is also able to sense ruptures in space-time. Both Pesmerga and Yuber wear identical black armor and carry identical swords, indicating that wherever they are from, or whatever they are, they appear to be of the same race, species, clan, or order. Before I get into the main theory and a couple of the smaller theories, I want to run over a quick theory people have about Yuber's weapon in Suikoden 3. Some fans believe that at some point during Suikoden 2 and 3, that Yuber killed Pesmerga and took his weapon. The reason for this speculation is because Pesmerga hasn't been seen since Suikoden 2, and the name of Pesmerga's weapon and its upgrades in Suikoden 1 and 2 is the same as Yuber's weapon in Suikoden 3. It's called King Crimson. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Yuber killed Pesmerga. They could have had a duel, Pesmerga may have lost and escaped, and Yuber may have taken his weapon. But this doesn't appear to be the case, as in Suikoden 1 and 2, Pesmerga is very clearly wielding a two-handed sword, while in Suikoden 3, Yuber is dual-wielding two slimmer one-handed swords. But hypothetically, let's say that they did fight and Yuber took Pesmerga's weapon. He may have had it melted down and had it reforged into two smaller, slimmer blades. But would there be a need for that? Suikoden Card Story's artwork shows each of them wielding an identical one-handed sword. So again, they could have dueled and Yuber may have taken Pesmerga's sword. They may each have been carrying a one-handed sword as a backup weapon along with their main two-handed sword, or as they're very clearly of the same or similar origin, Yuber may simply have multiple swords like that. He may even have melted down his own two-handed sword and had it reforged into two slimmer one-handed blades. Now, I'm not saying any of that did happen, I'm merely offering possibilities to the theory. Now, is it likely that Pesmerga is dead or any of that happened? While I don't like to give definitive answers for theories, I'll make an exception for this one. I'd say there's absolutely no chance he's dead, and I find it highly unlikely that any of this theory is true. It would be nothing short of a complete and utter failure of writing and storytelling if they introduced two characters, started a story between them, gave one of the characters no development, gave their overall story no development whatsoever across multiple games, and then ended their story by killing one of them off screen. It would make absolutely no sense, and it would be a total failure of storytelling. The weapon could be explained as I mentioned earlier. They're wearing identical armor and they have identical weapons. It appears they're of similar origin, possibly sharing the same order, clan, or people. So why did Yuber change his appearance in Suikoden 3? Why was Pesmerga not present and tracking him down? Well, Pesmerga at the best of times isn't the best of trackers, which I'll get into later. He's had two somewhat decent ideas with no follow-up plans when they didn't pan out. Yuber changing his appearance could be a very easy way to throw Pesmerga off his tracks. So no, I highly doubt any of that theory is true. Now on to the main theory surrounding the characters. So the most popular theory that fans have about Pesmerga and Yuber is that they represent order and chaos. This theory stems from series creator Yoshitaka Murayama stating that Michael Moorcock's The Eternal Champion novels were one of the inspirations for the creation of Suikoden. In his own words, the books inspired the world feel. Now, I won't pretend to be an expert on these books. I'm unfamiliar with Michael Moorcock's work, and I've never read any of his books. All of my knowledge on them that I'm about to discuss in this video comes from reading a synopsis of the series, basically from reading general overviews and summaries of each book, as well as reading a bunch of pages on the important aspects of the novel on the Eternal Champions wiki. Hopefully someone who is more familiar with his work that has read his books and knows them in better detail can let us know more in the comments. This is going to be a very simplified overview of the books, but basically the series follows a character known as the Eternal Champion, a person appointed as a paladin to be the keeper of balance in the universe. The cosmic forces of law and chaos clash for control and domination, and it's the Eternal Champion's job to keep the balance. If one side or the other was to come out on top in this conflict, it would end all life in the universe. Whenever the scales become imbalanced and begin to tip in the favour of one side, the Eternal Champion must tip the scales accordingly to bring balance to the scales. Sometimes this requires the Eternal Champion to fight for law, and sometimes it requires him to fight for chaos. I won't go into much more detail about the books, but that's the gist of it. So what's the connection between the Eternal Champion novels and Suikoden? Or specifically Pesmerga and Yuber? Dharma and chaos are in constant struggle, Dharma being law and order. Towards the end of Suikoden 3, Luke shows us a potential future, where Dharma is victorious, leading to a greyed out world where every sound, form and colour blend together into complete tranquility. A world where Hugo comments that he can feel no wind, see no grass, and smell no soil. A world of perfect order, where life seems to be non-existent. So you can see the connection between the Eternal Champion novels and Luke's vision in Suikoden 3. When Dharma won, it appeared to cease all life, just like it would have in the Eternal Champion books. There are two versions of this theory that have floated around over the years. The first version of this theory is that Pesmerga and Yuber simply represent order and chaos, as we've seen by Yuber's desire to spread as much chaos and inflict as much suffering and death wherever he can, with Pesmerga being the representative of order, hunting him down and trying to stop him. The other version of this theory is that they are the physical incarnations of the gods Chaos and Dharma, chaos and order, that Yuber is chaos and Pesmerga is order. that both are fighting for the end of the world as we know it, and the beginning of the world in their image. So why would Yuber aid Luke in trying to destroy a true rune? Well, destroying a continent, killing millions, and spreading chaos and suffering would certainly satisfy Yuber's personal desire and thirst for death and suffering, for the same reason Yuber has been spotted in many wars throughout time. He desires nothing more than to spread chaos and destruction. He enjoys killing, and he enjoys the suffering of others and their dying screams. And if he was the physical incarnation of chaos, it would certainly tip the scales in favour of chaos. As for Pesmerga, well, we don't know anything about him except that he's hunting Yuber, so we can assume he's fighting for the opposite of what Yuber is fighting for. We assume he's fighting to restore order and put an end to the chaos. But if Yuber was the physical incarnation of the god Chaos, he may not have known the far-reaching consequences of Luke's plan. He may only have seen the short-term chaos and destruction. Luke genuinely believed he was doing the right thing to save the world by destroying a true rune. He believed that he would ensure neither order nor chaos could ever win, and the visions of the future he showed us would never come to fruition. But it's also possible that if he did succeed in his plan, it may have led to his vision becoming a reality, but where chaos was victorious. Like I said, unlike the other theory videos where I did try to go in depth with each theory, I'm not going to go in depth on these Pesmerga and Yuber theories because we simply don't have enough information about Pesmerga or Yuber. So little information exists on both characters that theories are only able to take a few steps forward before coming to a screeching halt. There's no denying there's connections between Pesmerga, Yuber, Dharma, Chaos, and the influence of the Eternal Champion book series. The problem is, as I've said, there just isn't enough information given about either character to say any more than I've just said about this theory. Because from this point onwards in the theory, we're tapped out of Pesmerga and Yuber lore, and the rest is all speculation, which then starts bordering into fanfic territory to give them a story. Murayama may have been inspired by the Eternal Champion series, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he intended for Pesmerga or Yuber to represent order and chaos the way order and chaos were presented in the book. Or maybe he did. We don't know. I'm not dismissing any of it or ruling any of it out. We just don't have enough information to definitively say anything about the theory or to go in depth into the theory. It's all a possibility. My advice, if you're really into the idea of this order and chaos theory, go and read the Eternal Champion novels or read up information on them and form your own opinion. Another theory some fans have is that Yuber is the physical incarnation of the 8-section rune, or the 8-fold rune. All he talks about and seems to care about is chaos, suffering, and death. We know that true runes have wills and minds of their own, but we've never seen a rune take on the form of a human before. But that's not to say that it's impossible. Though, if he is the physical incarnation of the rune, would he be the way he is? We don't know for certain what the 8-fold or 8-section rune is. We don't know what it represents, what its powers are, or what it does. Although many people suspect it's related to the 8 virtues of Confucianism. The name of the rune in Japanese is Yatsufusa no Mansho. Yatsufusa is the name of a dog in a Japanese story that was killed after a lord backed out of an award promise. The novel is called Nanso Satomi Hakenden, and it was written by Kyokute Bakin. In the novel, a lord jokingly offers his daughter's hand in marriage to a dog if the dog can defeat his enemy and bring him his head. This dog is called Yatsufusa. Much to the lord's surprise, Yatsufusa succeeds in defeating the lord's enemy, and the lord reluctantly allowed his daughter to leave with the dog. A year later, a warrior called Daisuke, who was attempting to regain his honor, comes to the rescue of the daughter by defeating Yatsufusa, although he would accidentally end up killing both the daughter and Yatsufusa. When the daughter dies, 8 sacred beads are left behind and scatter to the winds. Those 8 beads are supposed to represent the 8 virtues of Confucianism: filial piety, brotherhood, loyalty, trustworthiness, etiquette, righteousness, integrity, and shamefulness. Clearly, none of those virtues describe Yuber. He is in fact the opposite of those virtues. This would certainly rule out the theory that Yuber is the incarnation of the 8th section rune, as if the rune does represent the 8 virtues of Confucianism, there's no way it can be Yuber, as he is the opposite of all of those ideals. An alternative but boring theory could be a simple case of Pesmerga and Yuber being from the same clan or order from another world, an organization devoted to those 8 virtues. And perhaps in a similar situation to where Necklord stole the moon rune from the Blue Moon village in his thirst for power, perhaps Yuber betrayed his order and stole his order's 8th section rune and fled, and Pesmerga has been sent on a mission to track him down and recover the rune. It's simple and boring, though if this were the case it would probably be highly disappointing to many people who likely have headcanoned a greater, grander role for both characters. The final theory that some people have is that both Pesmerga and Yuber are shades, mirages, or phantoms from another world. The mirage and phantom enemies we encounter throughout Suikoden all wear similar armor to both Pesmerga and Yuber. Richmond's investigations about Pesmerga during Suikoden 2 reveal that he moves pretty damn quiet for a guy with all that armor. I tell ya, it's a little spooky. And I'm still not sure what kind of creature he is. Some people say he's just a shadow from another existence. It was also revealed during the epilogue of Suikoden 3 that Yuber was seen mixed among them in the runes in the aftermath of the final battle. If this theory were true, it would certainly explain how quietly they move, and Yuber's ability to summon these undead mirages and phantoms from another world. But the truth is, we know so little about Pesmerga and Yuber, their history and their story. We know nothing about the rune. I can't really say either way about any of these theories, so I'm going to leave it entirely up to you to form your own opinions. As I said, it was different from other theory videos. The actual theory portions of this video were both short and difficult to write. That's because, as I've said multiple times now, and this is what it keeps boiling down to every single time, we know basically nothing about each character. Most of the theories I came across while writing this video were based almost entirely on speculation and total guesswork. Some theories I came across that I didn't even mention in this video were total fantasies bordering on fanfic rather than lore. Very few theories have any actual weight to them, and those that do have weight to them can only take a few baby steps forward before they hit a dead end and we run out of lore. I said earlier that I'd give my personal thoughts on the characters, and those thoughts are that I'm just not interested in Pesmerga or Yuber's story. Now, that lack of personal interest in the characters or their story didn't stop me from making a video on them, and it certainly didn't stop me from treating the theories fairly. I'm usually objective and impartial, or at least I try to be, but the reason for me not being interested in their story is because, as I've said multiple times throughout this video, we just don't have enough information about either character. I find it difficult to get invested in a character or their story when, after 5 appearances between the two of them, they receive minimal character development and no plot advancement. Pesmerga's entire story is a vague, I'm chasing Yuber for reasons unknown story, while Yuber doesn't even acknowledge Pesmerga's existence. In Pesmerga's 2 appearances so far, he has received absolutely no character development. He's also shown that he's either dim-witted and a bit slow in the head, or that he actually doesn't really care all that much about tracking Yuber down, and he's just going through the motions. Now, to be fair to Pesmerga, he does have a decent idea in Suikoden 1. Yuber and Necklord are acquainted and have worked together in the past, so track down Necklord and maybe you'll find a lead on Yuber's whereabouts. That's not a bad idea, but when he arrives at Necklord's castle and realizes Necklord is no longer around, what does Pesmerga do? He doesn't do anything. He stands around, waiting, doing nothing. Just waiting and hoping that either Yuber shows up or a lead falls into his lap. Anyone with half a brain at this point would pack up and move on in search of a new lead. Maybe question the villagers and village chiefs in the nearby villages, find out some more information. It also appears to be common knowledge that Windy is part of the Imperial Court, and if he's aware of Yuber and Necklord knowing one another, then surely he's aware of Yuber and Windy being acquainted. When recruiting Pesmerga in Suikoden 1, he's aware of Yuber's involvement with the Scarlet Moon Empire, so why did he not actively seek out the Liberation Army, knowing it'll potentially lead to a conflict and an encounter with Yuber? It was pure luck that MacDull happened to return to Necklord's castle when he had no reason to and stumbled across Pesmerga. In Suikoden 2, it's an okay idea he has. Go to the Cave of the Wind to track down the Star Dragon Sword or the Zodiac Sword, whichever you prefer to call it, as it has a connection to Necklord, and Necklord has a connection to Yuber. Admittedly, it's a stretch, but if you're running low on leads, it's something worth having a quick look into. But when he discovers the Star Dragon Sword is no longer in the cave, what does Pesmerga do? He once again stands around doing nothing, just waiting at the end of the cave, once again hoping for a lead to fall into his lap. And it was once again pure luck that he encountered Ryu. If Pesmerga and Yuber's final encounter, the conclusion of their story, whatever that may be, comes down to Pesmerga's investigative or tracking skills, my money is on Yuber. Yuber has time and time again shown that he is powerful, dangerous, and fearsome, but he has also shown intelligence as evident by his understanding of space-time and its connection to the Almakenan barrier. Pesmerga, on the other hand, has shown only that he's powerful. There is potential for them to have a great story if the Eternal Champion Order and Chaos theory is true, but there's just a total lack of story, lore, and information and character development surrounding both characters. If after 2 games, the only story, lore, and background information that exists on a character is, I'm hunting Yuber, without ever expounding on it, that is not a well-written character. And if Yuber has never even acknowledged the existence of the person hunting him, why should the player care? Had Pesmerga been recruitable before the Green Hill Liberation arc, and he had some dialogue or a short scene with Yuber before the Bone Dragon fight, it could have done a world of good for their character development, and it could have been a great moment to develop their story. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, and we're given absolutely nothing. As it stands, I truly believe you could replace Pesmerga with a sack of potatoes in both games, and it would have had absolutely no effect whatsoever on the story of either game, or his story with Yuber, and we'd still know just as much information as we do now. I think they leaned too much into the characters' cool design, their mysterious design, and the mystery of who they are, that they seem to forget that to keep people interested in a mystery, you have to trickle some information to give people something to latch onto and give them something to unravel. They partially did that with Yuber, but they done nothing with Pesmerga. The mystery is so mysterious that it loses its appeal due to the complete lack of information surrounding them. I genuinely don't understand the appeal that Pesmerga and Yuber's story has on people because we don't know anything about their story. And at this point, after this many years and this deep into the series, it's going to take something really special to get me interested in their story. Whatever their story was, I suspect it was going to somehow involve Harmonia, and it was intended to be tied in and concluded with the finale of the series. Although at the rate their story was developing, maybe it wasn't even going to start until the finale of the series. What that story was, I don't think even Murayama knew. I don't think they planned the specifics or the details that far ahead. As I said, this was different than the other theory videos as it was impossible to go into depth on any of the theories, and very few theories seem plausible due to the total lack of information surrounding both characters. But what do you guys think? Which theory do you subscribe to? Do you believe they represent order and chaos and their design was heavily influenced by the Eternal Champion novels? Do you believe they're the physical incarnations of the gods Dharma and Chaos? Or do you believe something simpler like they're warriors of an otherworldly order and Yuber stole the order's rune? Do you believe they're mirages or phantoms from another world? Or maybe you don't subscribe to any of those theories and you have your own personal theories. Or perhaps, like me, you're not personally invested in either character. I'd love to hear your thoughts about them in the comments below. And as always, if you have any Suikoden related topics you'd like me to make a video on, let me know. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.